Welcome to Pandemic Pages, the book podcast from the University of Hull, which explores how the coronavirus pandemic is being written about in contemporary literature. Before I go to our chat with our guest today, we are in the Bryn Jones Library for reasons related to our special guest and the topics that we will cover. Yiyun Li is a Chinese-born American and professor of creative writing at Princeton University in the USA. Li went to the United States to study immunology at the University of Iowa, but found herself drawn to the school's prestigious Writers' Workshop program. Her first book, a collection of short stories titled 1,000 Years of Good Prayers, won the PEN Hemingway Award. Where Reasons End, the winner of the PEN Jean Stein Award, was also named one of the 10 best fictions of the year by The Guardian, the Paris Review. Li is the recipient of the 2021 Literary Award from the American Academy of the Letters and Arts, as well as a Whiting Award, MacArthur Fellowship and Guggenheim Fellowship. He also won Princeton University's Howard T. Berman's Award for Distinction in the Humanities, the Royal Society of Literature's International Award in 2023, and the 2026 Andrew Carnegie Award for Excellence in Nonfiction. But despite reading Tolstoy and other Russian writers, she never felt there was enough to read. Since moving to the United States, she's developed a close bond with other English language writers, from William Trevor to Catherine Mansfield, Rebecca West and Ernie Hemingway. However, she also has an extraordinary connection to the University of Hull. She travelled here in 2017 to see the Philip Larkin exhibition. Today, we'll talk with Yiyun Li about her books, Dear Friend, From My Life, I Write to You in Your Life, Where Reasons End, her short story collection, Wednesday's Child, and her most recent memoir, Things in Nature Merely Grow. We also discuss her essay in the Before Times, where she reflected on her journey to the University of Hull, and how ever since she has written about the poet, university librarian, and the man, Philip Larkin. Thank you so much for joining me to chat. I read your essay in the Before Times, and I read that after I read Wednesday's Child. And obviously you travelled to Hull and yes, and you come to see the Philip Larkin exhibition in 2017. And you also said you were fond of your memories of Hull. So just asking you maybe to reflect just on your time.
Well, yes, because I was coming to Hull to see the exhibition and just remember taking the train and then taking the bus to Hull, and the bus driver was very nice and he told me where to wait for the return bus. The bus, I think, stopped right in front of the campus, right? The gate.
Yeah.
And I think there were 3 people on the bus who were going to that exhibition. It was early and there were not many people. And it was just a fascinating exhibition.
Yeah. Yes, it was. I was at university there in 2017, so I would have been in my undergraduate then. And in the essay, you say the Larkin exhibition was in the university where he'd served as a librarian, which he'd done so since 1955. It displayed hundreds of personal items, his collection of ties. So you saw that then?
Yes.
Yes.
Everything.
Because the ties were auctioned off. I was told this by the university librarian the other day. They were auctioned off, and Osama Lam, who was a great donator to the university, and he sadly died a couple of years ago in 2022, the year that you wrote this, and he donated them back to us. So now they're back on the 7th floor of the university where people can go and see the ties. So I thought that was extraordinary that the ties are in there. I thought that was brilliant.
Oh, for birds, yes.
I know. It's amazing. And then you say that his collection of ties, letters to his mother, neatly stacked in a glass case, their contents protected from voyeuristic eyes. A minute Hitler figurine, which is really important because of that relation to his father, and which belonged to Larkin's father, the hard covers and spines of Larkin's diaries, which this is the bit that I really want to dig into. Among one of them decorated with collages of scantily dressed women cut out of magazines, because they thought he had pornography in there, I think
Yes.
is the, yeah.
Yeah.
He had entrusted to Monica Jones, his longtime companion, had been shredded shortly after his death. So yeah, I was talking to the university librarian the other day about that exhibition and what that really did for Larkin. And I just wanted to sort of get a sense of what you felt about, like, your view of Larkin from that exhibition.
Right. I did read Larkin's poetry, and I read Larkin's letters to Monica. I think I first discovered him through that. I just ran into the copy of the book in the London Review Books shop.
Yeah.
And I read the letters, and I was fascinated by him as a person. And so having read the letters, having read his poetry, then going to see the exhibition, it sort of made him alive for me. For instance, all these little things. I mean, I think you're right. The journal, the hardcover, the in between, between the covers, everything was gone. That hardcover was there. It was fascinating just to see all these collages he did. I think some of his own self-portrait, maybe. I remember some women. And you just wonder what was in there, right? But also, you also admire Monica and the other woman who was very trustworthy and loyal to his memory. And as directed, they burned or shredded without in the world anything.
And I think it was Betty Macrath as well.
Right.
Yes. And I was thinking about a couple of things that you said there. I could just so unpick everything and have, like, probably chat to you forever about it. But the journals, the diaries, and that's something that I noticed in your reading of. So admittedly, I had read Wednesday's Child first. I've kind of not done this chronologically, so to me this is how it came. I read Wednesday's Child first, then In the Before Time, then I read Things in Nature Merely Grow, and then I went back to Where Reasons End. But what really struck me is reading Where Reasons End last is that you say about Philip Larkin's exhibition, don't you? The writer has this conversation with Nikolai. This says here, I told him about an exhibition of Philip Larkin I'd seen in England. There were covers of Larkin's journals, the insides taken out and burned in a fireplace the day after his death. I really love that. I applaud that as much as you do, Nikolai said.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting. And the key is to have someone you trust to live longer. And that's what you're talking about there, isn't it?
Yes. And I think it's always a very interesting question to whom you trust your memory, right? And always to the closest people. But also you have to trust that they don't distort your meaning or your image. So I was very struck by that, that Larkin just knew that the two women would do this. And I think you may have noticed I also quoted Larkin's poem in Where Reasons.
I was going to come to that, yes. Days is the key one there.
Yes, because, I mean, I still think about that poem all the time. And I just feel that he said, right, where do we live but in days? Yeah, that's the only thing we can do is one day at a time. And so I think that poem was central to the book, to Where Reasons, and also central to my carrying out my life, in a way, in this after time. So I like that. And I don't think maybe you haven't read Dear Friend, where from my life I write to you in your life, in which I had an essay about Larkin in there, or essay about the letters to Monica.
Wow.
And about, for instance, I think I shared Larkin was fascinated by Thomas Hardy. And I did Thomas Hardy is one of the most just preoccupied author. So I did write about comparing notes with Larkin about Thomas Hardy. I mean, again, talking to someone through words rather than knowing someone in real life.
Yes, because he was influenced as well by sort of Hardy, Yeats, D.H. Lawrence, T.S. Eliot. In the university's rare book section on the 7th floor, there's a first edition, a first copy of Lady Chatterley's Lover. I don't know if you went up to the rare book section. Did you go?
So I don't think so. Yeah.
Did you see?
I know
Sorry.
he's fascination. I mean, I share that love for D.H. Lawrence, and I read Lawrence all the time. I teach Lawrence all the time. So it's, as you said, I got to know his mind, Larkin's mind a little, and I realized whatever I have learned from reading him sort of resonates with me.
Yes. Days, certainly, because in Where Reasons End, you actually put like the first stanza, the 6 lines, and he actually said that it was hardly a poem about Days. In the archives, there's all of his manuscripts and drafts, and he typed them up after he'd written them, and there's like a little note on there saying, this is hardly a poem at all. And I thought that was really interesting, because then actually you've taken this, what he thinks is hardly a poem at all, and it's got this such profound meaning across your work, because it's not just Where Reasons Ends, but things in nature merely grow. The refrain comes again, and there you're talking about living in an abyss as well. So that was just extraordinary, that I thought that Larkin has this thread through your work. The thing that I want to also highlight as well is when we were in that exhibition, I was talking to the librarian, Chris Orr, and my good friend Anna Stevenson, who works at the library, and they said that Larkin is looked at as a poet, or he's looked at as a person, or he's looked at rarely looked at as a librarian, but in the exhibition it was really trying to eke out him as a person. So then I need to talk to you about Wednesday's Child. So I had this idea that when I read In the Before Times, the essay, after I had read Wednesday's Child, I saw this link between the Whitsun weddings.
Yes.
Correct. But the train journey to Hull is, for me, I thought structurally that might have influenced you.
It might be subconsciously.
Yes.
Being influenced. I didn't go seek out that influence. Obviously, in an explicit way. But I did remember before going into the exhibition, I think the day before, I met my agent, who I really love, and I said, I'm going to Hull to see the Larkin exhibition. And what she said was so poetic. She said, I think you would like to be on the train to feel the moving. And I just like what she said, to feel the moving, and it was exactly like that. Once you are on the train, you see the moving landscape, right?
Yeah.
Your body is. My agent went on to say your body is still, but the train is moving, so it goes through the landscape. I think that's just a very beautiful way to put it.
Yeah, that is an extraordinary way, because I take that train all the time to Hull.
Yeah,
and it's so beautiful. And I write in my diaries often when I'm on the train, that's either I'm on the way or on the way back. And you see as you're moving through the countryside, the villages, and once I'd read Whitsun Weddings again, and I just thought, I just see the parallels here, because in Wednesday's Child, which is I was born on a Wednesday, I just love this.
Oh, yes.
Wednesday the 15th of September, I just thought, wow, I'm a Wednesday's Child. And for me, this is set in the pandemic, the titular story. Not all of them, because there's 11 stories, isn't there?
Right, some of them, yeah.
Yeah, this took you 14 years to write?
Yes, about 14.
So the first one, it's Wednesday's Child with Rosalie, and she's traveling on the train. reflecting on her daughter Marcy, and she gets on, and there's a pregnant woman, but it's 2021 in the pandemic.
Yeah.
And that just struck me straight away, because it's not so. I'm studying COVID fiction, so I'm just really interested in the way that writers are just folding it in, and whether they're doing it directly, or whether they're doing it all the time, or whether they're doing it what I've called like quiet COVID fiction, whereas, you know, trying to distance it, so not to scare off people almost, which would be interesting to get your thoughts on as well. But this was set in 2021, and you've got the pregnant woman like tightly double masked. I just thought that was extraordinary. And I think as well, masks might be something that we need to think about in literature. Is it like the new, you know, how some people are averse to putting phones in digital technology?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And so I was thinking about Rosalie, and then the Hello Goodbye one as well is
There's a pandemic. Yeah.
But the writing in it, the writing is just so, I mean, that one's someone divorcing, but yeah, back to Wednesday's Child, the train passed villages with steepled churches, flower farms and rivers and canals alongside which cyclists rode as though in a movie. That's what you were saying there, that your agents.
Yeah.
So did you feel, was that you taking a trip on a train during a pandemic and writing, or did you think, I don't know, how did the pandemic?
Well, that story was fiction. Not entirely fiction. We did travel to the Netherlands in 2021 in the middle of the pandemic, you know, just so few people travel. So we did make a trip to Netherlands that summer, but just the feeling of not seeing many people that summer being tourists. And so that story came up. It's funny because, you know, I certainly did not mean to write pandemic fiction, but pandemic happened. So stories happened in pandemic also happened that way. So I think during the pandemic, I did write a few stories with the immediate setting in the pandemic.
Yeah, I think that I really like the heightened, you're paying really fine attention to like the crowdedness, like the train wasn't as crowded as that. And were it not for the pandemic, would Rosalie have noticed on this trip more young people about the age that Marcy would have been? Just the way that the pandemic precipitates these kind of emotions, deeper, stronger, new sense of philosophies, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic was not that long ago, right?
The outbreak of the pandemic was, 7 years?
Which I've forgotten about it, you know, a lot.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, but I do think, you know, when you talk about pandemic fiction, I do know novels, very much pandemic novel, you know, with the quarantine and, you know, getting the immunization, all these things. I don't know. I wonder if it's too, I don't know. I'm just thinking maybe after, say, during the World War I, when there was the flu pandemic, how long it took writers to really, you know, feel comfortable writing about the flu in 1918, right? So I find that interesting, you know, because a lot of people lost people during that pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah. In The Pale Rider by Laura Spinney, she says, you know, 50 to 100 million people. That was a global pandemic that surpassed COVID-19 for sure. Yeah. So I am interested in the ways that people are writing. T.S. Eliot and those writers and Virginia Woolf, they all had influenza. I would say it takes I would probably put a century on for people to actually really.
It seems to me that pandemic left many people orphans, for instance. You know,
yes.
I don't think in contemporary, we have a lot of, or at least we are not paying attention to orphans. As say 100 years ago, all these kids were left orphans by the flu pandemic.
Yes, that's certainly something to be looked at as well in archives. I was thinking to ask you, because there's a conversation at Hull that we're having around Larkin, and we're thinking about the way that, him now in 2026. I was listening to Simon Armitage's radio essays, Larkin Revisited. He did those in 2022, and the way that he was revisiting Larkin then, and he was like taking them out for a test drive on the road and talking to people, and you can hear Larkin read his poems. They're fabulous radio essays. What do you think Larkin is to Hull now? Because you came here in 2017, so
just the fact that he worked there as a librarian for so many years, it feels to me a legend. Also, in a way that a legend doing the same thing in the same building for so many years while writing poetry. For myself, I can never separate him from Hull. I think both because of the exhibition and also because of his long time there, reading the letters. It's always about his time there, right? So, I wonder if, I'm sure there are a lot of poets or writers connected to London, but, to one specific place like Hull in such a long-lasting way, I don't think there are a lot of incidents like that, or not that we can think of right away, right? So, for instance, we can look at Princeton, with so many writers going through Princeton, but not someone who's been here for, 15 years doing something.
Yeah, because extraordinarily, he developed the university library. He's the librarian, but he developed the floors that we have today and that we see. And my friend Anna was talking to me, and she said that when he built his office, he really put it out of the way. He didn't want it near anyone. He set it back.
Absolutely great. That's exactly how I would imagine him to be.
It's just interesting that he just wanted his. Well, it's not interesting. It's so on brand for Larkin to have that solitude.
Yeah, he needs that space. He needs that little corner
to hide away from everyone. The other thing is, I thought was, we're just chatting about Larkin lots this week. That the Hull History Centre have all of his house there. I don't know if you went to Hull History Centre.
I don't think so.
No. Did you just come to the campus, or did you?
I just came to the campus. Yeah.
He lived opposite the university in Newland Park. So yeah, you should come back to Hull and see those things.
Well, I know. It's quite an interesting. It's a court, right?
Yes, it is a port. Which, when you think about that with the Spanish flu, is deadly. Yes. In 1918, when the armistice.
Yes. Yeah. So, no, one fascinating thing I couldn't write to that essay was at the Larkin exhibition. In the end, when you visit the old exhibition, there was a little part that you could write a letter to Mr. Larkin, just white paper. So, and people would leave letters there. So I started to read the letter. It was fascinating. Someone said, "Yeah, Mr. Larkin, I did not know who you were, but after watching these things, looking at through your archive and stuff, I like you." So, I don't who's this person? But my absolute fascination is someone said, two letters. One said, "Dear Mr. Larkin, who was that woman you were having dinner with in some months in 1965? I thought, wow, this person saw Larkin dining with a woman. So that was a very funny. The other one was a very short message saying, "Dear Mr. Larkin, you were right about Andrew Motion."
What did that mean?
I actually asked Andrew Motion. I said, "What did that mean?" He didn't know. But that was my absolutely most favorite part of that exhibition, just to see these people leaving some questions for Larkin.
That was a very clever move on behalf of whoever. Well, I know that Anna Farthing was the external
Yes,
curator, so I wonder if that was. Well, that's a brilliant way to engage people with the archives and
yes,
the
yes.
exhibition itself. I'll remember that. I'm gonna mentally
You
note
can
that. And
ask them, ask the curator if they still have those papers.
yes, I wonder if they do.
I'm sure they I mean, I'm sure they have.
Yes, they should. And if they have,
Yeah.
yes, they should. They should have. I mean, they quite literally collected Larkin's pots and pans from his house. So if they haven't got those, I'll be shocked.
Yeah, I think they should have those things. Don't ask them what they have.
Definitely. Thank you so much. I just can't get it out of my head that there's this train structure around the just the journey, and then you saying about your agent. And also, have you read Jill?
I have. In fact, I think I got Jill on that trip. I bought a copy of Jill.
Oh, brilliant. There's a conference this year at the university which is celebrating, his novel. And actually they say that Monica was instrumental in editing that because he wrote her a little note in the front of it, sort of saying thank you for making this literate. So that
right.
editing of the
Right.
and that's phenomenal in itself. And Jill has that train scene as well, the travel, the pastoral and the urban. So it's definitely there. I was just amazed that you'd written the pandemic fiction. Have you read Olivia Lang's Garden Against Time?
I have read part of it. The book sent to me, and then I read half of it, and then the book just disappeared. You cannot leash the book, so the book just disappears.
Yeah.
But I know the book. Yeah, I have read half of it. Yeah, and she has a beautiful garden.
She does, in Cambridge, very much so. That's gorgeous. And then she's writing the Garden Manifesto. I must read that. I really have wanted to get my hands on that edited collection after reading that. And the other thing I'm just going to quickly ask, you said you'd read other pandemic novels, COVID pandemic novels. Can you, what were they, or what's one that you've read that you enjoyed?
There's a novel called Vulnerable by Sigrid Nunez.
Yep, love it.
That's the
with the parrot.
With the parrot.
Yeah.
And there's I think there's a Raleigh Doy novel set in a pandemic.
The Life Without Children, the short story collection, and The Women Behind the Door. Both of those.
I think The Women Behind the Door. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So those are, I think those are the two pandemic novels I've read and remembered. So,
yeah.
I'm sure there are other pandemic novels, but I haven't. Yeah.
I can affirm. Lovely. I'm so grateful for your time, Yiyun. I can't believe. Thank you so much for giving me time.
All right. Thank you so much. Very lovely talking to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.